This is an example of our check sent to the Receiver General via St. John's Tax Service or St. John Tax Center, Post Office Box 12076, Station A, St. John, Newfoundland, A1B 434. They keep asking us to send money to this address. Well, this address is no longer valid as of October 1st, 2012. They do not inform the citizens, so the citizens keep sending their tax to this tax center office. Then they keep the money in their bank account or cash the check, but then transfer the money to their bank account. It is deceitful, isn't it? The citizen must be informed that they should never send their communications and payments to these addresses, not only stated on the internet. So these people use the opportunity to make money by taking the money sent by the honest citizens. Also notice that this payment has never been recorded in the following unofficial notice of assessment of the HST of the same quarter period. Rather, they add the amount which is less than the amount we paid to the amount they call it still outstanding. This is one of the unofficial notice of reassessment. It used to be the GST HST summary after you make the report. I made a payment for the same period of $438.71 as in the previous slide, which was more than what I was supposed to pay because I paid before filing. They never recorded this money paid to the Receiver General or deducted this money from the $249.12 amount owed and sent us the overpayment. They added the $249.12 to the so-called outstanding balance from their audit. Therefore, it is becoming $35,110.25. These people are stealing the money paid by the honest citizens. The $438.71 money sent to the Receiver General was cash, but never recorded. Notice the address of St. John's Tax Center is now 290 Empire Avenue, St. John's, Newfoundland, A1B 3Z1, and it is processed by agent 0002459. How in the world the Canada Revenue Agency moved so quickly from the post office box to this address? Before submitting the information required by Michael Bertacco, we received another letter from Elaine Davis again. She still uses the stamp address, the Canada Revenue Agency, 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A 182. The postal code is not the postal code of the Canada Revenue Agency at 875 Heron Road, and this address is no longer valid as of October 1st, 2012. Just like her first and second letter, Elaine's third letter is also unofficial, without letterhead and without official record for administrative purpose. But this time on the top left corner, she introduced a new office of the Canada Revenue Agency, which is Hamilton Niagara Tax Service Office. She also tells us that she still operates from St. Catharines, Ontario, L2R 3B9. Does it make sense to you? She's telling us that she is actually working now at the Hamilton Niagara Tax Service Office. But why there is still St. Catharines Tax Service Office as well? Is she telling me that she works in these two tax service offices belong to the Canada Revenue Agency? Formally, if you work for an office, in this case the Canada Revenue Agency, that has two different addresses, the two addresses will be printed on the official letterhead printed on an official paper. At the bottom page, she gives the name of her office, still National Collection Compliance Center, and the same address, 32 Church Street, St. Catharines, Ontario, L2R 3B9. An address that is no longer valid as of October 1st, 2012, and her letter is dated April 30, 2015. Hamilton Tax Service Office address is actually in Hamilton, 55 Bay Street North. Interestingly, this office also has a post office box address, which is Post Office Box 2220, Hamilton, Ontario, L8N 3E1. But this address is no longer valid as of October 1st, 2013 for all payments and communications. And again, her letter is dated April 30, 2015. These addresses are no longer valid, but they are still using them to trap their victims. These mafia gang members know that the addresses are no longer valid, but the citizens, the victims, do not know or are not aware of it. They never inform the citizens that these addresses are no longer valid so that they can keep the money sent by the honest citizens, including the victims. Interestingly, she still uses the same envelope as mentioned in the previous slide, 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, K1A 182. This postal code actually used to be owned by the Canada Revenue Agency Technology Section, which is a contract office. Should I say that common sense tells you that an official letter only carries one address, not these different addresses in one letter? She also gives the customer service telephone number, Michael's telephone number, so that we can get a voucher and make a payment arrangement at 1-800-959-5525. Is this Canada Revenue Agency? And she still suggests that we make the payment to the 275 Pope Road, Suite 102, Somerset, PEIC 1N682. She actually missed the word I in the PEI, but then she added the office Canada Revenue Agency. Who in the world said to me that this is legit? This time, I called Elaine and asked her about the different addresses she has been using for clarification. When asked about 875 Heron Road, she said, that is where you send your money or payment. So I asked her, then why are you asking us to send the money to 275 Pope Road, Somerset, PEI? She said, I don't want to talk about it. I said to her, you give me these different addresses that are no longer valid, I'm going to report you to the RCMP. Then she hung up. I called her office 2 days later. I only got her voicemail. She suggested to call her friend Brenda Dubé at 1-855-705-9982, a cellular telephone number. When I called Brenda, all I got was a voicemail. She wanted me to call another person at 1-800-675-6184. It is another cellular telephone. Then I called this number. All I could hear was music. No sounds or anything, but music. Is this Canada Revenue Agency? I don't think so. Of all the telephone numbers introduced in this case, you never talk to them directly, but always a voicemail. They also never return your call unless they know that you are kind of ready to make the payment. Then they call you back. All the telephones are cellular telephones. Apparently, Elaine informed every gang member that I'm going to report them to the RCMP. After knowing that I'm going to report them to the RCMP, Brenda's voicemail changed to, "You have reached the confidential mail of Brenda Dubé at the Canada Revenue Agency. The voicemail of the telephone number 1-800-675-6184 that used to be music has then changed as well to a male voice, same as the voice of the customer service voicemail, saying, 'Welcome to the Canada Revenue Agency.' So this person must be a male." Elaine also informed Michael Bartaco that I was going to report them to the RCMP. Because these people are using cellular telephones, I check on them once in a while. It turns out that David Hunt is Stephen Hunt, or he becomes Stephen Hunt. This man came to our premises and disguised himself as David Hunt, even his signature. He even gave his business cards saying that he is David Hunt, Auditor, Canada Revenue Agency Auditor, Audit Division, but he cannot tell what he actually is. And again, his signature saying David Hunt. Now he is Stephen Hunt. I check on Karim Adatia. He was very, very mad when I called him. He asked me, "How did you get my number?" I said to him, "You sent me a fax." He never wanted to talk, kept asking, "How did you get my number?" So I kept telling him, "You sent me a fax." He claimed he is a public servant. A public servant will not be very, very angry when a citizen calls. He must have received a tip from Elaine as well that I'm reporting them to the RCMP. The number Karim Adatia uses is actually that of a scammer and a radical collection agency, but claim they are the Canada Revenue Agency's Audit Division Refund and Integrity Program. 2 days later, Michael Bertaco called. Interesting, isn't it? He told me that Karim mentioned I call. We did not have much to talk about. However, during this communication or during this conversation, Michael told me that in their record, my husband has not filed income tax for 2 years and he has a refund for the HST. But only certain people in the agency can see that my husband has not filed income tax for 2 years. Again, only certain people can see this. Not all people can see the record. He warned me that only certain people, including him, can see that my husband has not filed income tax for 2 years. This is, of course, a lie. They use that technology to block other people in the agency from knowing what they are actually doing, including transferring the money from our bank account or our check to the government and all the refunds that my husband is entitled to receive to their bank account. Who said this is illegit? This is a crime. Then he asked me about my meeting with the RCMP. He said, "Keep me posted." Another interesting thing in all Elaine's letter, her 3 letters, is that she always requires social insurance number on the check or business number on the check. Business number is secondary, but the social insurance number is more important because they claim that my husband has not filed income tax for 2 years, which is a lie. I decided to write to Senator Ranchiman instead. I did not write it to the politician or the member of parliament in our writing, because one member of parliament was fired by Prime Minister Stephen Harper when he wrote to the Canada Revenue Agency about one of the members in his constituency who was being audited for the same reason. To Senator Ranchiman, I turned it into a report. You know, when it is a report, you do not need to reply to the person individually, or you can tell the person that you will do an investigation or take an action. This is a process of the so-called public inputs, and it costs zero. Yes, all public inputs cost the government zero. Now all you have to do is fix the problem. Surprisingly, he never read the outgoing letter. He may not read the incoming letter or the report either, because he is so dependent on his staff to handle everything. The belief that a person can handle everything is a delusion. The leader must read. It is his job description. That is his first job description. Read. The letter was written by his staff, and he used Senator Ranchiman's electronic signature as well, ignoring my statement that electronic signature is the same as forgery. So even at the Senate level, people forge the leader's signature. It is a crime. Nevertheless, his staff admitted that he does not have the capacity to investigate the issue, does not know how the Canada Revenue Agency does its job, and does not have any authorization from my husband. This is the problem with multiple tasks. Everyone thinks he can do everything. Then they claim they are experts in every issue or have experience in every issue. This claim is a delusion. It is not a senator's job to go down directly to the Canada Revenue Agency, especially to face with the auditors. Between the Senate and the agency, the Canada Revenue Agency, there is the Ministry of National Revenue, which is responsible for the agency. If you do not have the capacity, give it to the people who have the capacity. There is also the RCMP. If Senator Ranchiman works for the public, he should clean the Canada Revenue Agency and refer the same issue to the RCMP. He does not go directly to the Canada Revenue Agency auditor. Going directly to the Canada Revenue Agency auditor is the way an amateur does. The right process is that he should discuss the matter with the Ministry of or Minister of National Revenue and the Commissioner of Canada Revenue Agency. A senator is not a jack of all trades. Like everybody, he is not a jack of all trades. He is not an expert in public sector auditing, does not know the inside of these two organizations. So, give the job to the Ministry of National Revenue, Canada Revenue Agency Commissioner, and the RCMP. You don't go down into the hole by yourself. That is amateur. Since when forgery is becoming a common practice in the government? At the Senate, at the ministry, at the agency, or from the municipal government up to the Senate level. It is very dangerous when the government officials accept the fact that forgery is just a normal business practice. Yes, it is very dangerous. These people can sell secret information by using the leader's signature to legalize and close the deal. Then the politicians are busy looking for the black sheep whom they will cast the blame, accuse, while the people who do these illegalities are inside the government. With foreigners that now can work in the government, these people can use the leader's signatures to authorize all kinds of activities, including bribery, corruption, sabotage, espionage, terrorism, money laundering, Ponzi scheme, just anything as long as they are paid. Leadership does not exist in this newly reformed government. Mind you, the leaders do not read what is coming in and going out. They read through their assistants or only a one-paragraph sentence or a two-paragraph sentence prepared by their assistants. And yes, I have made an appointment to meet with Corporal Nicole Julie Coeur at the RCMP National Headquarters. However, after my conversation with Michael Bertaco, I received several calls from the RCMP office. Corporal Julie Coeur said that she has to postpone the meeting because she is going to bring someone from the finance department. That was fine with me, no big deal. Then I received another call from the RCMP. The woman on the phone told me to go to the Ottawa police because the RCMP does not deal with my case. Another telephone call was from the RCMP office in Milton, Ontario. The person left a message, mentioned his name is Malcolm, and asked me to call him back. After talking with him, he told me to go to the Canada Revenue Agency office in St. Lawrence or St. Laura Avenue in Ottawa. I asked him, who am I supposed to meet? He said, just go there and anyone there will be able to help you. So, it is anybody. Yes, in the government system today, anybody can be anybody. This is dangerous. I can meet with another crooked agent. He may inform the people at the front line and this person is just another gang member. He or she will take out the information and make the changes in the computer before any investigation is started, just as what happened with the telephone communication with the ministry. It was resolved. If it was resolved, why all of a sudden Alka called us and the paper, the unofficial paper, still going on? It has to be clean and back to the official again. I finally able to meet with Corporal Julie Coeur. She brought in someone who later on I found out that his name is Corporal Koterskuji. He did not mention his name when we met. I thought he was the person from finance department, as Julie Coeur informed me. I was expecting to meet investigators, but I do not think that these two individuals are investigators. When I pull out my files, Julie Coeur kind of saying, she seemed reluctant to see the bundles I have. Koterskuji, on the other hand, agreed to see the bundles, but he kept on smiling. Before we started, Koterskuji reminded that if they check with the Canada Revenue Agency in the RCMP office, if the audit is legit, go and find a lawyer or an accountant and go for an appeal. That seems awkward. Before starting, these officers have told me to go to an appeal. They have been tipped or they have been bought. Julie Coeur gave an impression that she does not know how to do the investigation because the people involved are at everywhere, while Koterskuji thinks that this is just a normal business practice such as electronic signature, post office box, mailing address, because these people receive all the letters. These two officers are not capable to identify the scam in the administration, even the Minister Gail Shea's letter and signature. Later on, Koterskuji told me that he is an investigator but cannot identify the white-collar crime inside the government, an investigator who cannot identify the subtleness of crime in the administration. The RCMP used to be a highly efficient and prestigious investigation. It also used to have the so-called intelligence unit, but as the unit employed the wannabes, many wannabes, cases of abuse were widely spread. As a result, the politicians decided to replace this unit with the current organization, which is CSIS, or the Canadian Security and Intelligence System. However, inside this organization itself is widely spread corruption and espionage. This organization is very poor managed. The leaders do very little. Its previous director or its chief executive officer does practically nothing, that he rather lived out of the country while living on the citizens. I mean, the citizens pay his hundreds of dollars salary, but he lives out of the country. The intelligence staffs of this agency is good in fashionable apparel for investigative tasks, but in the work they do not have the proper training. I mean the technical training to become intelligence. They Google their way. This organization also wastes millions of public money on the procurement projects that never materialize. While the intelligence unit is civilized, the technical unit is politically managed. The civilians occupy the top positions and the top administration. It has dual management. The civilian has more power than the trained technical officers, and it causes the trained officers to be idlers. Do you know that idlers, or being an idle, is the greatest curse of human capital? Why you go to school to become an RCMP commander and staff or officers highly trained with technical capacity, but in the workplace you let your intellect to be rusted just because you detest the politicians who have caused your organizations to be dysfunction. The politicians do not pay your salary. A man will never become a politician if the citizens do not elect him. The citizens elect him because they believe in his boast. Yes, politicians are social boasters and are not good leaders. They do not really know what they should be doing. They do not have job descriptions. Do you know the job of politicians? They are not managers or decision makers as they are today. They are policy makers and regulators, but they never do the task of policy making and regulating because these two jobs are contracted out to the third party. They contract the jobs out because the politicians do not know it is their job, and they are also not trained in these fields. The easy way out is to contract them out to someone else, but it is actually to someone who has political connection with the politicians. Because it is contracted out, the policies are more and more about I or me than we or us. Regulations become self-regulating. In a political management organization, people are appointed to a higher position or hired without educational credential, knowledge or training, and knowledge specialization, but simply based on political consideration. They do not need education. They do not need special training, and with the organization adopts the flat line function. Any person can be anybody. The leaders do not get involved in the management of the organization. The leaders do not get involved in the operation of the organization, especially those who are politically appointed. They spend most of their time, 60% of their times, in meetings with stakeholders, just as the politicians do. Most cases, or 93% of the civilian cases, are rejected by the RCMP. When the cases are rejected, the citizens are encouraged to report to a watchdog group or a third party rather than to the RCMP commander. The commissioner is a political appointee and he is like the private company chief executive officer. He does little when it comes to investigating, but act more like a figure person. These rejections becomes the issues for the politicians to attack the RCMP commissioner, who is politically appointed. It is something to feed to the media as well, to keep the appointed officials in the media for popularity's sake. The RCMP will be authorized to conduct an investigation if it carries political weight, a case that gives the leaders popularity or makes them popular. With these rejections and being politically managed, the RCMP is being led to believe that they serve for political reasons, but not to serve the citizens, or like the political staffs who consider the politicians are their masters whom they must serve. They think they serve the politicians. The two supposed to be investigators do not seem to have the technical capacity to investigate. They may not be trained investigators, but are appointed to be investigators directly from the frontline position. Therefore, technically, they do not have that capacity. When I mentioned about Project Crochet, Julie Kerr asked, "What?" I explained to her about this Project Crochet in Quebec. 6 people from the Canada Revenue Agency, including a chartered accountant, were caught because they are doing the similar audit they are doing with my husband. She is an investigator at the national headquarters but does not know about this case. It does not make sense, does it? Alternatively, they have been bought, so they close their eyes. If they close their eyes to solve criminal acts done by the citizens to other fellow citizens, that means they are corrupt. Under political management also, these people, including those in other government organizations, have the impression that they work for the politicians and the politicians pay their salary. So they are more afraid of the politicians or listen more to the politicians rather than serving the citizens and listen to the citizens' complaints. This impression is very wrong. Every single person who works in the government, including the politicians, the RCMP, and the Prime Minister, the Governor General, the Lieutenant Governor General, all the judges, the temporary personnel, and all, is paid by the citizens. With privatizations, all consultants, contractors, lobbyists, and all who receive money from the government in exchange for their labor or service are paid by the citizens. They are supposed to receive or to serve the citizens and listen to and solve the problems faced by the citizens, regardless of their ethnic background, economic level, ethnic and racial background, and so forth. If you are at the federal level, you serve all, no exception of jurisdiction. You also serve the citizens who live in foreign countries. It is not about constituencies. That lowers you down, that you are never able to think as a federal leader. They should not ask about the social status of a person before they decide to help. I did not tell Koder Skuji when he asked about me. No one in the government will speak if they know that I'm also using this case to do my dissertation, because I'm studying the Canadian government leadership, organizational structure, and management. They will not talk with you, especially after former Prime Minister Harper put a muzzle on everybody who works in the government. They do not want to open up or meet with you. They are afraid. Why should people be afraid of the politicians? It is because of their vote the person becomes a politician. If the citizens do not vote, they will never become politicians. If they do not serve the citizens, they do not deserve to be politicians. The beauty of being a politician is that you have the grace to serve the citizens. It is a privilege. But money has clouded their mind that they only want to serve those who give them money. The Home Builders Association has been one of the Harper and Conservative Party main contributor. It does not seem fair, isn't it? They give money to the politicians and the political party in hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then take millions and even billions from the taxpayers. Is it fair? The OPP and RCMP used to be a hierarchical organization, but after becoming a flat function organization, everybody becomes everybody. It is like everybody can become expert in everything in a short time. A civilian can become a corporal without training. Just volunteer and follow what others do in the environment. But technically, the person is an empty barrel. A civilian can also become a commander in a short time. Just volunteer. This explains that these two corporals, although they are not capable, they are reluctant to give the task to a person who has a special training in investigation, especially investigating government organizations. They cannot analyze. Give it to a person who can analyze white-collar crime. They think they know everything, including investigation and analysis. And their analysis is, it is legit. A couple of Ontario Provincial Police officers I talked to about this case after the first meeting confirmed that this is a fraud and should go to the RCMP. So I told them about my experience with Julie Kaur and Kotaskuji, people whom I and the rest of the citizens pay their salary but are betraying us. The RCMP has a person from the Canada Revenue Agency. This person may not know what he should do because he is politically appointed, or that he has been tipped to reject any case to do with the Canada Revenue Agency. That means he is corrupt and he has been bought. If he is not corrupt, he would take the case and do an internal investigation by collaborating with the Minister of National Revenue and Commissioner of the Canada Revenue Agency. Investigate these people. That is how he can become an excellent investigator. Why in the world a person occupies an important position but only as an idler? He receives monthly salary paid by the citizens but do nothing for the citizens. People who make a living from the public but do nothing for the public do not deserve to be in the public office, especially the leaders. 2 days after the meeting, Corporal Nicole Julie Kaur called and said the person from the CRA said that the audit is legit. That was all she said. She decided to return the material and told me to go to the lawyer and have him help me to negotiate with the appeal officers. The Canada Revenue Agency person inside the RCMP has tipped these so-called investigators not to do anything but tell the victims to go and negotiate. All they want is the money. It does not make sense, or it does not make any sense, and it is unfair. They protect the criminal inside the organizations rather than helping the people who pay their salary, or just simply ignore the civilian case out of spite to the political leaders and all the political appointees. You know, people always say that the government protects itself. In reality, it is the bad people who work in the government and are using their networking in the government organization, using their eyes and ears to protect themselves, not protecting the government. They do not care about the government. They just use the government and its facilities to make money from the citizens. As in this case, the government is a public office and it is being occupied by individuals who have turned it into a private corporation. So it is all about me and myself, or me and my image, me and my corporation. It is about me and the money. If I were a trained RCMP investigator, I will take any case, study them, analyze them, and solve them. That is how I maximize my knowledge and training. I apply my knowledge in doing my task. This makes me efficient and effective investigator. And at the same time, I express my gratitude to the citizen who pay my salary. The more I take the case, the higher is my technical capacity will be. But the more the RCMP rejects to solve public problems, the lower is its credential and its capacity, and eventually it loses its ability to solve public problems, especially when the problem is complex, such as this case. Here is my message to the RCMP. By refusing to investigate the civilian cases means that you are engineering self-destruction. You are trained technically. Use your technical training. Don't be an idler. Your salary is paid by the citizens, not the politicians. Learn from the past and look forward. You are heading down the hill. Your intelligence section was cut off because you hired wannabes who abused the citizens. Now you are rejecting the civilian cases, which means that your investigating unit will also soon be cut off. That is the trend. You will become an idler organization or an idle organization. Your organization becomes a curse. Your investigators will become idlers. They are idlers now. Then the politicians will take over and create another unit of its own, the civilian unit, under the public safety management. If I were the commander, I read the trend. I command my investigators to do their jobs, serve the citizen, stop holding the grudge, fix your organization. The political appointees send people from the staffing agencies to come and work in your organization and steal your pension. Why don't you investigate everyone? Why not investigating them before hiring them? If I were a commander, I act as a commander, not a chief executive officer. I mean, if the commander is a real commander, not another wannabes. You know the true purpose of education is? Ellen White said in her education, the true purpose of education is to serve fellow citizens. It is not about making money. The government is established to serve the citizens, not about making money or saving money. That is why you use your education, knowledge, and knowledge expertise to serve the citizens, not making money. The RCMP should have had the most sophisticated technology to aid them in their task, because this mafia gang at the Canada Revenue Agency used technology to block people from seeing what they are doing. You cannot check the person by making a telephone call, especially when they are using cellular telephone. The Canadian Surveillance Electronic System, a public-private company, is more sophisticated than the RCMP, but it is to spy on the citizens who pay for its establishment and pay for the salary of the people who work in this organization. That is brutal. In all political managed organizations, there are scandals, but are not known, or the media cover them up, and you cannot find the proof. Why? Because the leaders always destroy the evidence. They commit illegality. That is why they destroy all evidence before leaving the office. Political staffers have 30 days to destroy all the evidence. Then the activists blame the government. It is not the government. It is the people you elected and their staffs and they appointed or political appointed cronies. When the RCMP idles in its investigating unit, it is behind the season. It does not have the ability to investigate enemies who are using the most sophisticated technology in the world to attack you. In fact, if the RCMP is not capable to evaluate or read all the subtleties of the white-collar crime, Canada is ready for a grab. Yes, adding to the Prime Minister's comment that Canada is open in the global market, that means Canada is ready to go down. You have bad people in the system and they help you go down. All of us going down. Canada does not need Patriot Act. If the RCMP and other military units do their parts to clean the system from the bad people and treat the citizens as citizens, they are not customers. Another government official who has the responsibility to correct this fraudulent practice is the clerk of the Privy Council. She makes such a wonderful promise that she is to help the citizens and clean up the government out of scandals. But in reality, she said it is not her mandate. I received an email from the clerk of the Privy Council office, and at the bottom of the email it says Communication Center without any name. This is illegal. Yes, it is very illegal. This person can be any person. It could be a temporary personnel, a janitor, or anybody. It could be a spy. It could be any gang member. This is very wrong. It means that even at the Privy Council office, it is becoming as dysfunctional just as the Senate office, the Ministry office, and the agency office, in this case the Canada Revenue Agency. They are so dysfunctional that people can do criminal acts inside and these leaders do not know about these activities. They do not know because they spend 60% of their times outside of the organization for meetings with stakeholders, work in their own business, attending fundraising events, being public speakers, and so forth. They also bring their own staffs who are poorly educated, less educated, and untrained. Therefore, things are treated as personal. This explains why auditing becomes a personal matter, and the crooked people use this opportunity to milk money from the innocent citizens, collecting money from the citizens also becoming personal matters. The professional system of government requires hard copy. People can send email to the government, but the government must reply in hard copy, official paper, official record. Everything has to be official. That is also transparency and professionalism. That is responsibility and accountability. People can see the person in charge, not any Jane Doe, not any undersigned, Jane Doe. One day we received a telephone call from someone named Jasir Ullah. He claimed he is from the Canada Revenue Agency Audit Division and left us a message in our answering machine. The cellular telephone number he used to call us is 604-951-5660, which is the same number Karim Adatia used. He left us a different telephone number to call him instead, which is 604 587-2182, another cellular telephone. When I called 604-951-5660, a voicemail saying this is a local number, check your listing. I was surprised. I called the other number Jasir gave, 604-587-2182. He answered right away. He must have been waiting for my call. He asked if we received his letter, which we never did. Then he said he will resend it. I told him that I will read it when it comes because I will not take things over the telephone. His letter arrived, dated August 25, 2015. It is unofficial. There's no letterhead, no official record. It has the copy and paste of the logo of the Canada Revenue Agency and the symbol of the Government of Canada. The symbol of the Government of Canada is smaller than that in Brenda Paquette and David Hand's letters. The location of the symbol of the Government of Canada is inside the margin. However, he has printed on the very top right corner the word Protected B. It tells people that only certain individuals can have access to this file. He was still using the address 9737 King George Boulevard, Post Office Box 9070, Station, Maine, an address that has been expired since October 1st, 2012. He also used the mobile phone 604-587-2182 or 1-855-887-2182 and proposed personal communication. If you call these two numbers, he answers. He also introduced his team leader Michel Guimond with his personal telephone. I mean a mobile telephone. 1-855-587-2985 or 604-587-2985. If you call these two numbers, Michelle answers, but all you get is a voicemail, never a direct communication or a direct answer. He wanted to have some documentations because there was a refund, the same as Karim or Michael Bertaco did. He wanted me to prepare all the documents, purchase and sales invoices. But after putting them all in the envelope, I decided not to send them because they will take the refund anyway. This mafia group will take the money or the refund my husband is entitled to receive through the person who has the social insurance number the same as my husband's business number. They need the proof so that the money will be released to them. To put this audit into perspective, this so-called audit division requests the invoices, but in the audit work of GST HST done by David Hunt and approved by Bruce Pettipas, Alka Guy, and Cyril Boniface, the only source of information used is the bank book. Do you believe it? This is indeed a fraudulent practice. Jasir called again and asked me whether I have received his letter. After I said yes, I did, he asked whether I am going to send the documents. I said to him the address is not valid. He said that is the address I am asked to use. So the new person who does not know that this address is no longer valid is being told to use the invalid address to prey on the victims or future victims. I asked him Where are Karim and Michael Bartaco? He said he does not know. Maybe in the other sections. He's new, he said. So he asked me again, are you going to send me the documents? I replied, to the post office box address, no. Then he said, I will check with my supervisor and we'll let you know. You are worried about the post office box address, right? To this group or mafia group, it is all about the money and they want it quickly. So he gave us about 10 days, which was September 8, 2015, that we should send him the documents. But we received his letter late. So when I said there's no time to send it, and it arrives on September 8, he said, it's okay, I will wait for it. 2 days later, he called and told me that I can send the documents to the mailing address, but must use his name so that he can receive it. And I should put on the top right corner of the envelope the word Protected B. An experienced person, of course, know that they will tip the person who pick up the mail so that the mail will not fall into the hand of those who do the official letter. The remaining content of the letter is just a political language, and that he is hiding behind the subsection 169 verse 4 and subsection 288 verse 1 of the Excise Tax Act to scare us and threaten us that we should obey his request. I decided not to send the documents. I just keep them in the envelope, though I was ready to send them before. Maybe by doing this, these people cannot get the money. Maybe they do, who knows. The money is usually go to the person whose social insurance number is the same as my husband's business number. All of a sudden, we received a telephone call from Elaine Davis from 905-984-2400. She wants to talk. She said, this is Elaine Davis from the Canada Revenue Agency. But we do not want to talk to her. We already know who they are, so we just don't want to pay attention to these crooked people anymore. My husband did call her, though, and told her to stop harassing us. He only got her voicemail, so he left her a message to stop harassing us. She sent another letter with the subject, legal warning about your GST HST debt of $37,992.39. Notice that Elaine still uses the same address that is no longer valid since October 1st, 2012, while her letter dated October 29, 2015, 3 years later. All her letters are unofficial from the beginning. She still uses the Hamilton Niagara Tax Service Office, which is supposed to be located in 55 Bay Street, Hamilton, Ontario. She also still uses the address 32 Church Street, St. Catharines, Ontario. Is this official? In her letter, she still gives a telephone number, 866-269-3013. This is a mobile phone, a mobile number. I checked this number again. Last time I checked, I only got her voicemail. This time she came on the phone. She answered and said, are you going to harass me? I said, you and the others are the ones who have been harassing us. So, through the telephone, she gave me another number, 905-984-2038 or 1-800-959-5525, the same telephone number given by Michael Bartaco, the customer service, managed by Michael Bartaco. This is a ring of people doing crime while working as government employees. Michael Bertacco, I believe, is no longer working at Canada Revenue Agency but is now serving as a customer service manager at the Union of Taxation. But he is still using the telephone number he used while working at the Canada Revenue Agency, and his voicemail still says Michael Bertacco at the Canada Revenue Agency. So these people carry the cellular telephones paid by the taxpayers to continue with their scam activities even though they have left the agency. They collude with the people who are still working in the agency. All the telephones are cellular telephones because they want us to make a deal directly with them. I questioned Elaine why she uses so many telephones. She denied. I said, yes, you called us 2 weeks ago using 905-984-2400. Now you give me another 2 different numbers? You also give 866-269-3013. All these numbers are cellular telephones. She denied. In fact, she militantly denied that she ever made a telephone call to us and left us a message in our answering machine. We still keep her message. I told her that she should talk to a police officer this time. I found another Ontario Provincial Police officer to check on this case. He said, this is a real fraud. He even advised us to move our money or close the account because these people can have access to our banking information. They have had the bank account number, and those at the customer service may also be working at the bank as customer service. They can have access to the account and steal the money or froze the account. But he said that in order to finalize the work, we have to go to the RCMP. I told him about my experience with the RCMP officers. They are corrupt. That is why they close their eyes. They have been bought. On the other hand, the 2 investigators in the RCMP I met do not have that technical capacity because they never go through the official training or not properly trained as investigators. Due to their poor capacity, they are incapable of investigating Canada Revenue Agency, which is sheltered by the politicians. According to Malcolm from the RCMP office in Milton, the CRA, or the Canada Revenue Agency, is sheltered by Prime Minister Harper. The RCMP investigators, or supposed to be investigators, are unable to read the subtleness in this type of white-collar crime. Elaine said that she wants to talk to this police officer. I was going to give her the OPP officer telephone number, but then I realized that if I do, they will try to bribe him and stop him from doing investigation just as they did with the RCMP officers. Elaine said to me, you said you go to the RCMP. No one called me. So I said, you have bribed the officers I met. So I found new ones. It takes time because it is not only one person, several people including you. So she hung up. Elaine knows I talk about the different addresses she gives in her previous letter. She still uses Hamilton Niagara Tax Service Office, which is actually located in 55 Bay Street, Hamilton. But in her letter, she always put 32 Church Street, St. Catharines, Ontario, L2R3B9. It doesn't make sense, does it? But instead of asking me to make payment to 275 Pope Road, Suite 102, Summerside, PI, this time she gives the different choices to pay online or to 875 Heron Road. But she emphasizes to make payment through online. We already know that if we pay online, the money does not go to the government, but to them. They are working in the computer to control the payment from the victims. Besides, this is a fraud, no official record, so the money goes directly to their account. I do not trust this agency anymore and the people. It has been 3 payments made to the Receiver General since the audit. They have been cash, but in the unofficial notice of assessment, it never mentions about the payments as in the formal notice of assessment. They just keep adding the amount to what they call balance outstanding. Notice in Elaine's letter, the balance outstanding has increased to $37,992.39. They never deduct the amount or the money paid. They have received, they have cashed the money, and the money goes directly to their account without going to their official record. On September 21st, 2015, we received a telephone call from Zasir Ulak about the reassessment of the HST report, which I decided not to send the documents after preparing them. He used different telephone number from the one he stated on his letter. It is 604-951-5660. This telephone number is that of a scammer, as I mentioned before, a cellular telephone. He said, "You will just get a credit. A refund is disallowed." That was his message in our answering machine. He claimed he is an examiner for Refund and Integrity Program, Audit Division of Canada Revenue Agency, but he's a scammer. Then we received his letter. Notice a little different in this letter is the position of the symbol of Canada Revenue Agency and the symbol of Government of Canada. Because they are copy and paste, sometimes they are not pasted exactly as they are in the official paper. In just the letter, they are inside the margin. The side of the symbol or the size of the symbol of Government of Canada is rather small or smaller than that in all David's and Bruce letters. On the second page of his letter, he still used the same address, but without the post office box, because I have told him that I do not send information to the post office box. He still used 9737 King George Boulevard, Surrey, BC, P3T 5W6. The mailing address of Canada Revenue Agency in Surrey, BC is 9755 King George Boulevard, Surrey, BC, P3T5E1. It tells that the mailing address is close to the post office box address. It could be only 1 block apart, while in Kingston it is about 3 blocks apart. His letter is a little different from that of Michael Bartaco. On the right-hand corner of his letter, on the top, he typed the word protected B. It is supposed to tell people that only he or certain people can open the case, such as Michael Bartaco. Something interesting happened after reading Jasir's letter and, of course, listening to his message in our answering machine. I called 604-951-5660. A male voice mail says, "This is a local number. Please check your listing." By the end of December 2015, when I called this number again, a voicemail, a female voice says, "You have reached the local number of the Canada Revenue Agency. Please check the blue page of your tailbook to find the listing of the Canada Revenue Agency you wish to reach and dial again. Goodbye." Do you think all this makes sense to you? Canada Revenue Agency Audit Division says this? Then we received a statement of audit adjustments dated October 9, 2015 for the HST quarter period April 1st to June 30, 2015. Notice that this statement is very personal. It does not carry the copy and paste of the logo and the name of the Canada Revenue Agency and the logo of the Government of Canada as in their letters. It does not have the official record and is printed on a regular paper. Remember in the previous slide, the formal audit report, it is printed on an official paper with category and so forth? Yes, this statement is personal, not official. Interestingly, this statement is done and sent from the Kingston Tax Service Office. This is supposed to be the refund integrity from Fraser Valley to do it, Jasir Ulak to do it. Why all of a sudden it is done by the Kingston Tax Service Office? It must have been done by David Hunt, who is also Stephen Hunt. So in this adjustment, because I did not send the invoices, he denied the ITCs, and he is hiding behind the Excise Tax Act subsection 285 and 169 verse 4. I wonder if these people, including David, know the meaning of these subsections. If David Hunt or also Stephen Hunt does the statement of audit adjustments, Agent 0000826 does the unofficial notice of assessment. This unofficial notice of assessment resulted from David's calculation. It increases the assessment by $3,392.90. So now the balance outstanding is becoming $37,919.32. This number is not the same as the amount Elaine charged as the balance outstanding, which is $30,992.39. What makes the difference? Maybe each person involved charges his or her own interest. When we make payment because we charge more than we pay, they keep adding it to this balance. They take the money. They cash the money. I send payment directly to Ottawa. They cash the money. They do not have the information because with the computer technology, the mafia group member is able to block people from other sections from seeing these events, and they cannot see that I have sent the payment as well. There is no more official notice of assessment sent to us after the audit. This is the same as they are using the technology and militantly forcing us to pay. Michael also told me that only certain people can see that my husband did not file income tax for 2 years. This is the copy of the latest check I sent to the Receiver General at 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario K1A 1B1. The address of the Canada Revenue Agency where we should send our payment. A payment for the quarter period July 1st to September 30, 2015. This payment has never been recorded as a payment. The money disappears. The check has been cashed, but there has never been any record made for the audit period. How could this be? If you make a payment, your GST HST report summary will tell you, of course, on the official paper, the amount of GST HST collected minus the amount of GST HST paid on purchases, or the ITC. The balance is what it calls net tax. This net tax either positive or negative. If it is positive, you should pay, and if it is negative, you receive a refund. In our case, we paid $233.32 to the receiver general, but it has never been recorded. The person who has the social insurance number the same as my husband's business number took the money, of course. The following is the unofficial notice of assessment. And it tells us that the money has never been recorded. At the bank record, the check was cashed by the Canada Revenue Agency on November 13, 2015 with a clearance reference 121-99036. At the end of the third quarter of 2015, we received the unofficial notice of assessment. This time it is done by agent 0001683 and the mailing address used is St. John's Tax Center, 290 Empire Avenue, St. John's, Newfoundland, A1B 3Z1. And of course, the telephone number is 1-800-959-5525, the customer service number. And the agent, we do not know where they are or who they are. They are very militant, demanding, forceful, coercive, and ignorant. Their only aim is the money. In this unofficial notice of assessment, there is no information GST/HST collected, and the GST/HST paid on purchases or the ITC, which gives the net tax. The net tax tells whether we receive a refund or owe money to the government. As you see in this unofficial notice of assessment, the money we paid, $233.32 to the Receiver General, using the Canada Revenue Agency address 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A1B1, which was cashed on November 13, 2015, was never recorded. They want you to file GST/HST online. So these people add this amount to their balance outstanding while they take the money we paid. Honestly. Then they lie that we never made the payment because the online system says that we owe the money. Therefore, according to Jasir Ulak, my husband now owes them $38,141.16 from $37,919.32 plus $233.32, it becomes $38,141.16. Don't you think this is a lie and deceitful? Canada Revenue Agency warns the citizens about identity theft, but the people who steal the citizens' identity are those working at the Canada Revenue Agency. They have a man inside whose social insurance number is the same as my husband's business number, and this person has been taking all the money the refunds, and the money we paid. They keep their eyes blind of the process because their focus is money. It is very embarrassing that the RCMP do not have the capacity to do this kind of analysis and investigation, or for a white-collar crime such as this. John from the RCMP office in Milton, Ontario agrees with Malcolm, and he said that this agency is under the political control. But it is the taxpayers who pay the politicians and the RCMP and the Prime Minister's salary. The citizens pay the salary of all people working in the government, including, as I mentioned earlier, the consultants, contractors, lobbyists, even volunteers. They should not become public officials if they do not serve the public and eliminate these white-collar criminal activities within the government. Thousands of people have become their victims. They pay because they, including accountant, use to negotiate the deal do not know how the government should do an audit. Corporal Koterskuji even asked me, who benefits from this activity? Huh? An investigator, or supposed to be investigator, asked me this question. You have a person in the Canada Revenue Agency who has been using our identity and steal the money from us and the public, and he asked me these questions. He takes all the money we send to the government and takes all the refunds for my husband. And Koters Kuji asked me, who benefits from this? I think he needs to go to school and learns how to identify white-collar crimes. Yes, I think he needs to go back to school and learn. As I was about to finalize this presentation, we received a registered mail sent by Elaine Davis. This is different from her former letters. This time she uses registered mail just like Cheryl did. This is another out of the ordinary way of the government does its business. Something must be happening in this agency. Therefore, these people are desperate for this money. Her envelope still says Canada Revenue Agency, 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A 1A2, an address that is no longer valid for all communications and payments as of October 1st, 2012. In this envelope, she inserted a return envelope addressed to the Canada Revenue Agency, Ottawa Technology Centre, which is a private company, and a so-called certificate of registration letter dated January 18, 2016. She put down certified amount $38,387.32. I really do not know how she came up with this number. In her third collection letter, dated October 29, 2015, she stated that the amount outstanding has jumped to $38,992.39. David Hunt and Jasir Ulak said the outstanding amount has jumped to $38,141.16. They never recorded in the unofficial notice of assessment all the refunds my husband is entitled to receive and all the payments made to the Receiver General. They take all the money and just keep adding up the numbers from the online report we made. This is very wrong. It is a theft. This time, Elaine does not use her office in Hamilton Niagara Tax Service Office at 32 Church Street, St. Catharines, Ontario, L2R 3B9. By the way, as mentioned earlier, Hamilton Tax Service Office is located at 55 Bay Street North with a Post Office Box 2022, but is no longer valid as of October 1st, 2013. Rather, she revealed her true office, which is National Collection Compliance, but without an address. And notice that the symbol of the Government of Canada is now at the bottom right corner. In all her letters, the symbol of the Government of Canada is on the bottom left corner. This is supposed to be a remittance voucher. The content of this certificate is basically a threat. Yes, another threat. It says this notice is to inform you that we have registered a certificate in the federal court for the amount of money you owe to the Canada Revenue Agency. The amount due is shown in the above box. If you do not pay the amount immediately, it may be necessary to seize and sell some of your assets to eliminate the debt you owe the Canada Revenue Agency. But she wants the money to be sent to the Ottawa Technology Centre, a private company. Then she wants not to make payment online, as in her last letter, her third letter, but send a check directly to the Ottawa Technology Center and use the name Receiver General. However, since we made payment to the Receiver General, the money never reached the government. Since the audit in 2012, we sent 3 payments to the Receiver General. They were never recorded. The last payment was in October 2015 and was cashed in November 13, 2015, was also never recorded. They keep adding the amount of refunds my husband's supposed to receive and the amounts he has paid, and therefore the amounts he owes now has jumped to over $38,000. This is not real. This is a theft. This is about using the government's name and facility to steal money from the taxpayers, and for the victims, this is a double whammy. It is pretending. They are pretending to do an audit, but actually they are scamming. They are frauding the people. The victims are being fraud twice. They also use technology, so they just transfer the money from one account to another and they block other people from seeing this activity. Another thing is, I do not know what this is supposed to be, certificate of registration letter or a form 3 T305AP10. I cannot seem to find this form from the Canada Revenue Agency. There's no written certificate of registration letter of what? This is actually a remittance voucher, and she just copy and paste of the content to scare us, especially my husband, so he pays. This is brutal. This is force. This is a threat. They are doing fraud, but hiding behind the Excise Tax Act and using the government facility and all. Then they threaten us to pay them immediately. They even use the court name to threaten us. Yes, this is very brutal. This is dehumanized. This certificate also contains a copy and paste signature of the so-called Director Accounts Receivable Tax Program Division, Taxpayer Services and Debt Management Branch. This copy signature can be that of anybody. There is no clear name, so this name can be any person or any John Doe. I mean, this can be the signature of any person started with letter T. I got the name of the Director Accounts Receivables Tax Program Division, Taxpayer Services and Debt Management Branch in Ottawa, which is Miss D.L. Livingston, and this is not her signature and not even her electronic signature. I raise my case when the leaders do not get involved in the administration, management, and operation of the organizations. People do crime, white-collar crimes. They cut and paste or make a copy of the leader's signature and paste it on the letter to make it look like a legit document, but it is actually a scam. Yes, it is a fraud. This signature is anybody's signature. They make it look like a legal document, but it is just copy and paste of a John Doe signature. This certificate is supposed to be Form T305AP10 from the Canada Revenue Agency, which is a voucher of remittance, but she combines it with the so-called certificates of litigation letter to scare us, or registration letter to scare us. Elaine made it up just like Cheryl, David, Alka, and the rest to scare us, and we pay immediately. Things are made up to deceive us. She's using it as a threat to make us to pay the money. You know the saying is, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. All her letters are scam. Now she wants the money to be sent to Ottawa. Not through online payment, not to PEI, not to St. John's. They have had member in the 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario K1A 1B1 to take this money. This is the bottom part of what Elaine meant by the voucher, to make payment or the remittance voucher in her last letter, but she calls it certificate of registration letter. At the front of the voucher, she gives the account number and a little explanation about my husband's name or business name. At the bottom, she is no longer asking to send payment to 275 Somerset PI or through online payment, as she told us to do in her last letter, or to St. John's Tax Center as David Hunt, who is also Stephen Hunt, wants. But she wants the money to go to a Canada Revenue Agency office, which is the Ottawa Technology Center, a private company, but at 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A1B1. This is the address where we sent our money before, our check before. It was addressed or payable to the Receiver General using the same postal code. The check as presented in this slide presentation was cast on November 13, 2015, but was never recorded. Where the money goes? All the refunds my husband is entitled to receive, filed through online, never received and never recorded. All the payments made to the Receiver General since the audit were never recorded. The checks were sent to Ottawa to this address and postal code because that is what they tell us to send our payment. It is different postal code from the one Elaine gives in her envelope, which is K1A1. This postal code is not valid for all communication as of October 1st, 2012. So this mafia group is now having their person at the Canada Revenue Agency, 875 Heron Road, Ottawa, Ontario, K1A1B1. This person is then passed the payment we made to the Ottawa Technology Center. So was the check sent to St. John's Tax Service Office, Post Office Box 12076, Station, Maine, was never recorded. This Ottawa Technology Center, as I mentioned, is a private company. Like Elaine's office, National Collection Compliance. They found private companies while working inside the Canada Revenue Agency and banking on the Canada Revenue Agency name to make money from the citizens without the citizens aware about it. Through this ordeal, I'm questioning, is it the Receiver General who takes all the money we send to the government? Is he also the person who takes all the refunds my husband is entitled to receive, including the $7,134 and some cents that David accused us of receiving from the federal government? Is he the person who receives the business number refund on behalf of my husband, or by using my husband's identity? Is she the person whose social insurance number is the same as my husband's business number? In fact, we started having difficulty with payment to the government ever since they informed us to make check payable to the Receiver General and send the money to the Post Office Box 12076, Station A, St. John's, Newfoundland. We used to make payments payable to the Ministry of National Revenue. The government never informs the public to whom they should make the check to and to where address they should send their money to. That even until today, although the addresses are no longer valid for all communications and payments as of October 1st, 2012, they still require the citizens and the victims to send their payments to these addresses. And the citizens, the victims, still send their payments to these addresses because they're not aware of it. Even In our case, we sent one of the check we sent to St. John's, but only to find out that it was never recorded. The money was cash or the check was cash, but never recorded in the system that we send payment to the government. I'm warning the citizens, beware. This is the tax season. Canada Revenue Agency has been privatized, and people who are working in this agency are opening their own companies, but they are carrying the name of the Canada Revenue Agency. This Ottawa Technology Information Center, as I mentioned, is a private company. The small business units, or used to be a contract company, now becomes a private company operating using the Canada Revenue Agency's name. Do not send your money to the Receiver General, or do not make your money payable to the Receiver General. Send your tax money to the Ministry of National Revenue as we used to. They still want you to send money to the small business units with the mailing address and the post office box address. Do not even make payment online because the money you pay never reaches the government. It goes to their bank account. Now I understand that since this audit, they do not send us any official record anymore, and the regular record as a proof of payments made and the refunds received or transferred or will be transferred. They are private companies that are banking on the name of the Canada Revenue Agency, and militantly they are pursuing the money. They propose to the Minister of National Revenue to keep predicting uncollected goods and services tax or the harmonized sales tax at the House of Commons as a venue for them to come and audit you. They're always targeting the small business operators because the small business operators are easy to be victimized. Small business operators do not use accountants as big businesses do. They come to your house to audit you alone, or they go to your accountant's office to audit you alone. They do similar audit report and accusing you of receiving money from the federal government, or that you do not know how to do your bookkeeping, as in this case. Then at the end, they make their audit assessment to match the amount of money you have in your bank book at the time they come and do the audit. Just as in this case, Bruce Pettipas said that this is how they make money, by deceiving you, making you confused, then fraud you. They come to your door claiming auditing GST, HST, but then they charge you as not filing income tax. Then they make their assessment to match the amount of money you have in your bank book. They want to take all your money in your bank book. Go back to the manual. You can use the technology program to do your income tax or paperwork, but do not file it online. Send all your papers manually. These people can have access to your file, then do not record your payments or refunds. They even take your refunds and transfer them to their account. Imagine if there are 1,000 people receive $50 refund. One person can make $50,000 in a tax season. Yes, they take both your refunds and the money you pay. This is what Bruce Pettipas said, how they make money. They are banking on the Canada Revenue Agency name and make money out of you. Remember, the small business units are now private companies, but still working, the people are still working inside the Canada Revenue Agency. In this case, now they want the money to be sent to the Ottawa Technology Center, one that has been using the technology to deceive people, to steal our refunds and payments. one that blocks other people from seeing what they are actually doing with people money. They transfer the money we paid and the refunds we should receive to their account. To the Minister of National Revenue, they make sure the minister knows that the case is resolved. Then they work behind the scene to pursue the money. As in our case, they use Elaine Davis, who opens her own office inside while working at the Canada Revenue Agency, a collection office, a very radical collection company called National Collection Compliance, and militantly she keeps threatening us to pay. She's threatening us that she's going to take us to court or will put a lien on our property if we do not send the money to. Now she wants us to send the money to a private company, the Ottawa Information Technology, but using the name of the Canada Revenue Agency. As he said, payments of this remittance cannot be made at a financial institution and must be forwarded to a Canada Revenue Agency, which is Ottawa Technology Center. But this is a private company. Interestingly, she wants the check to be made payable to the Receiver General. I raise my case. These people are using the technology, working inside the Canada Revenue Agency and robbing the citizens while being paid by the citizens. They are hiding behind the tax laws and they are bold to make themselves above the law because the politicians are behind them, or endorse their practice because the politicians are clueless about this type of work. Elaine wants the check to be made payable to the Receiver General, so he must be the person who takes the money, the bulk of it, who then shares it with the others. Alternatively, these people use the technology to transfer the money electronically to their bank account once the check was cashed, because the leaders do not read and never know what is going on inside the organization. The leaders spend most of their time outside the organization, attending meetings and doing other things. People think that the politicians pay their salaries because they are working as private companies but banking on the Canada Revenue Agency. Even the RCMP, they think that the politicians pay their salaries. Get real. A person will never become a politician if the citizens do not elect him. Once he becomes a politician, which is very sad, the citizens pay his salary. But all the works he does is for the people who help him during the election and those who donate money to him and to his political parties. That is manipulation. He manipulates the public to elect him, but then denying the public when they seek his help. They let the front line to handle your case. Also, people who pay their salary. Citizens pay the people at the front line salary. As I mentioned earlier in this slide presentation, the citizens pay the salary of every person who works in the government. The politician, the prime minister, the judges, the governor general, lieutenant governor general, all the military personnel and leaders, all people who receive money from the government in exchange for labors and services, including the salaries of these crooked people. These crooked people use the leader's signature to legalize or to make their work seems legit, but it is actually a fraud. Or they make fraud seems difficult to detect, that even the two corporals I met at the RCMP cannot identify because they lack technical capacity. And yes, the citizens pay the salary of the RCMP. I'm challenging the RCMP commissioner, especially Deputy Commissioner Mike Cabana, who claims he has the training and extensive experience in investigation and fraud. Prove it. The citizens pay your salary. Stop being an idler. An idler is the greatest curse of human capital. Yes, an idler is the greatest curse of human capital. Be a commanding officer, not someone whom a politician, a political appointee, or a watchdog person steers left or right. Do you know the real job of a watchdog person is? To criticize you and feed bad news to the media about things you do. He is to create story about you, but mostly a negative one. So he will help to grade you down, which in the end, the impact is self-destruction. If you keep rejecting and denying helping the citizens who pay your salary, yes, your organization will be destroyed by your own demise. Isn't this what happened to your intelligence unit? The politicians and political appointees do not have the technical training. Politicians spend their times at the office arguing and debating. No person can do anything if all his day is spent arguing and debating. Let the citizens see that you are worth of their money, not someone who makes money from the citizens only to be an idler. Remember, it is the citizen who pay your salary, not the politicians or political appointees or the watchdog personnel. This case reveals how dysfunctional the government has been, especially in this case. The most dysfunctional organization is the Canada Revenue Agency. An organization is efficient and effective when the leaders are involved in its management, administration, and operation. This is what happens when the leaders do not read, spend most of their times outside of the organization, or never gets involved in the management, administration, and operation of the organization. You breed crime. I'm challenging the RCMP commissioner and his deputy to use their technical training and help the people who are paying their salary. Stop being idle before your investigation unit is plucked out of you and you become the greatest curse of human capital. Following Elaine Davis' previous suggestion that we should request a remittance voucher, I called the Canada Revenue Agency's customer service and asked for the voucher. As an honest person, we never pay attention to this so-called remittance voucher because if you have to pay, you just pay. Your check is made payable to the receiver general and the address is stated in the voucher. You do not question about the address. Apparently, under the new public management system, the Canada Revenue Agency created remittance voucher, which we never see it before or after I asked for this voucher. This remittance voucher says at the right top corner, Protected A, which means that it is to be processed by certain people. At the bottom of the voucher, it gives the personal information bank number CRA PPU 047. My question is, if this is a check or payment voucher for the government, why is it called Personal Information Bank Number CRA PPU 047? Then there is the voucher number 122011117. Since when payment for tax to the government is recorded as personal? This is money for the GST HST and should be recorded as the official bank account, not a personal account. It is also interesting that after this audit, this so-called voucher carries two different addresses without civic numbers, which are St. John's Tax Center at Freshwater Road and Empire Avenue, St. John's, Newfoundland. Although there are two different street names without the civic numbers, the so-called voucher has one postal code, which is A1B3Z1. This does not make sense. It shows more how this so-called voucher is unofficial. Interestingly, the so-called voucher has a case reference number, which never exists in all remittance forms we have received previously, or all these years. The case number is SA1602-71107283. This so-called voucher still wants us to send payments to Canada Revenue Agency, St. John's Tax Center, Post Office Box 12076, Station A, St. John's, Newfoundland, A1B44, an address that is no longer valid for all communications and payments as of October 1st, 2012. When I called the Canada Revenue Agency to question about where should we send the payment of the quarterly GST HST, I was told that the payment should be sent to 4695 12E Avenue, Shawinigan South, Quebec. This is the GST HST voucher. Although it was sent after the audit, it never says remittance voucher. On the top right corner, it says Protected B, which is different from the one I received after I requested it from the customer service. It has the same address where we should send the payment to, which is Post Office Box 12076, Station A, St. John's, Newfoundland, A1B44. Again, is an address that is no longer valid for all communications and payments as of October 1st, 2012. This supposed to be a remittance voucher carries the same personal information bank number CRA PPU 047 with the same account number 12201117. This explains why payments made never goes to the government account but to this personal bank account. This also explains how the payments from the taxpayers are now going to individual accounts, people who work in the Canada Revenue Agency, even though the check is made payable to the Receiver General. In the case of this audit, Elaine Davis wants us to send the check payable to the Receiver General, but it has to be addressed and sent to the Ottawa Technology Center, a private company. This reveals that these people are using the government office facility, even the Receiver General name, to take money from the honest citizens. They use the technology to transfer the money to their account when the check is cashed. This is theft. Then we have the government who keeps predicting deficits while the taxes paid had been ended up in private accounts. This is fraud. In our case as well, the refunds have been disappeared to this account and never been recorded in the unofficial paper. The money paid as well have been cash but are never recorded in the unofficial record. Now Elaine Davis wants and forces us to send the money to the Ottawa Technology Center, but the check is written as payable to the Receiver General. Who in the world believes that this is legit? When the leader is corrupt or dishonest, the subordinates are evils, and the evils are multiplied in the society. If you received or have received a proposed audit letter the same or similar to what I presented here, you have been fraud. If you received an audit report that is the same or similar to the one I presented here, that is a fraudulent practice. If you follow the process, pay for the penalty, pay after the appeal process, pay after the court appearance, or have gone through the out-of-court settlement, you have been fraud. If you have gone through the nightmare of these paperwork as presented in this presentation, it is a fraud. If you are required to make contact directly with the auditors and other people introduced to the cellular telephones and individual fax machines, you are being fraud. If you experience that your money in the bank has been frozen and being forced, or they force you to sell your asset to pay them, you have been fraud. If you receive letters from Elaine Davis or other collection persons requesting payments to be sent to Summerside through online payment to Ottawa, to St. John's, do not do it. You are being fraud. If you have been the victims of this fraudulent audit practice, you can get your money back collectively. Yes, you need to work with your lawyer collectively to get your money back. This fraudulent audit practice must be stopped. You can also demand the RCMP to do an investigation. Don't forget, you pay their salary. Yes, you also pay the politicians and all people who work in the government and those on behalf of the government, including the so-called crooked people and the receiver general. You pay all the police officers' salary. You also pay the judge's salary. You need to get your money back collectively.